In the early 1700s, wooden sailing ships still carried people across the Atlantic, guided by wind, stars, and fragile maps. Somewhere beneath those same northern waters, a shark may already have been alive. While human history continued to change above the surface, this animal kept moving through the cold depths of the Arctic Ocean. Most sharks do not live very long by comparison. Many survive only a few decades. Even the great white shark, one of the ocean's most studied predators, rarely reaches more than about 70 years. Yet scientists studying a slow-moving shark from the far north uncovered something unexpected. Evidence suggested that some individuals might live far longer than any shark previously recorded. One specimen examined by researchers may have already been swimming through the ocean before William Shakespeare wrote his first plays, which means a living vertebrate animal in today's oceans could have begun its life in the early 1600s. For most of human history, no one realized these sharks might be so old. They move slowly through water that sits just above freezing, beneath ice that can cover the sea for long parts of the year, and their world remains hidden far below the surface. The discovery came from an unexpected place, inside the shark's eye. A small layer of tissue formed before birth contains chemical traces that remain unchanged throughout life. When researchers examined this tissue using radiocarbon dating, the results suggested ages rarely seen among vertebrate animals. The animal known today as the Greenland shark enters scientific language under the name Somniosus microcephalus, a quiet label given by taxonomists who study the branching history of life. Within the broad family of sleeper sharks, it belongs to a lineage adapted to dim water and unhurried movement. The name itself suggests sleep, yet the creature behind it is neither fragile nor passive. It is a large northern predator whose patience has shaped every part of its design. Seen beside other sharks, its proportions appear heavy and deliberate. The body is thick through the middle, tapering slowly toward a broad tail that moves with steady rhythm. Adults can exceed 6 meters in length, placing them among the largest sharks living on Earth. Their mass gives the impression of quiet gravity rather than speed. Nothing in the animal suggests sudden bursts or restless motion. Every contour reflects a life carried out at an even pace. The skin carries a muted shade of gray that deepens toward charcoal in older individuals. Light fades quickly in the waters where this species spends much of its time, and the subdued color merges easily with the surrounding darkness. Up close, the surface feels rough, lined with tiny dermal denticles that protect the body like fine armor. These microscopic scales bend passing water into quiet currents along the shark's sides, helping such a large animal move with little disturbance. The range of Somniosus microcephalus stretches across the northern oceans. It appears most often in the Arctic basin and throughout the North Atlantic, from the waters near Greenland and Iceland to deeper channels bordering Canada and northern Europe. Fishermen occasionally encounter the species while working long lines far from shore, where the seafloor drops away into vast slopes and basins. In these regions, the shark moves through layers of water that remain cold throughout the year, traveling quietly across distances that human observers rarely witness. Movement in this shark unfolds with a measured steadiness that biologists often describe as deliberate. The fins sweep slowly, producing gentle propulsion rather than rapid thrust. Observers watching tagged individuals drifting past underwater cameras note how little effort seems required to maintain progress. Large muscles work at a calm tempo, conserving energy while allowing the animal to travel great spans of ocean over long stretches of time. The result is a presence that feels ancient even when seen for only a moment. Among sharks, it stands within the order Squaliformes, a diverse group that includes dogfish and several deep-water relatives. Members of this order lack the prominent anal fin seen in many other sharks, and their bodies often favor endurance over speed. Within this assembly, the Greenland shark belongs to the sleeper shark family Somniacidae, whose members share heavy frames and unhurried swimming styles. These connections place the species inside a quiet branch of shark evolution shaped by darkness, distance, and patience. Individuals encountered by research vessels often appear like moving silhouettes emerging from dim water. The head is blunt, the mouth curved slightly downward, and the small eyes sit forward on a broad skull. Behind them, the body widens with surprising thickness, carrying layers of muscle and fat that support long journeys through northern seas. Even at rest, the animal gives the impression of great weight suspended in slow motion, a drifting giant that seems almost geological in scale. Across its range, the Greenland shark remains a seldom seen resident of the deep northern world. Most knowledge of its life comes from brief meetings beside research ships or from instruments lowered into dark water. Yet the form itself is unmistakable once observed: immense, gray, deliberate, moving with the calm assurance of an animal suited to its realm. In the taxonomy of sharks, it holds a place, and in the oceans of the north, it endures as one of the largest fish, gliding through waters that few creatures inhabit for long. Years passed in quiet observation before anyone recognized that something about these sharks resisted ordinary explanation. Marine biologists studying specimens from northern fisheries often began with simple measurements. Length was recorded, weight estimated, and the slow accumulation of data formed a scattered record across decades. At first, the numbers seemed ordinary, another large shark inhabiting cold seas. Yet subtle patterns began to appear once those measurements were placed beside one another. Individuals of similar size surfaced in catches many years apart, showing little sign of growth between encounters. A shark measured long ago might appear again in records decades later, with proportions that seemed almost unchanged. The change was not entirely absent, but it unfolded at such a gradual pace that time itself appeared stretched around the animal's life. Biologists accustomed to faster rhythms among marine predators began to notice the unusual stillness hidden inside the numbers. Growth in most sharks follows a rhythm that researchers can trace with careful study. Younger individuals lengthen steadily as seasons pass, their bones and tissues adding measurable increments year after year. By comparing sharks of different sizes, scientists usually build a timeline of development that reveals how quickly an animal approaches adulthood. When those same methods were applied to Greenland sharks, the timeline refused to form in familiar ways. Large bodies appeared that seemed too mature for the modest growth expected within a typical lifespan. Specimens exceeding several meters suggested decades of development, perhaps far more than researchers had first assumed. Yet the evidence remained incomplete. Each new measurement felt like a fragment of a story, whose full shape remained hidden beneath layers of uncertainty. Traditional aging methods rely on structures that record growth, like rings in wood. In many fish, small bones in the ear known as otoliths accumulate layers over time, allowing scientists to count years with careful microscopy. Sharks lack such bones, so researchers often turn instead to calcified vertebrae. Thin sections cut from the spine sometimes reveal bands formed during growth, each layer marking a passage of time. When scientists attempted this approach with Greenland sharks, the vertebrae offered little guidance. The expected bands appeared faint or inconsistent, dissolving under the microscope into patterns that refused clear interpretation. What should have been a biological calendar looked instead like blurred stone, its history written in marks too subtle to read with confidence. The uncertainty lingered as more specimens passed through research vessels and coastal laboratories. Length measurements continued to suggest animals of immense age, yet no precise clock could confirm the suspicion. The sharks themselves revealed little through outward appearance. Their bodies carried no obvious signs of youth or age, only the same thick form gliding through cold northern water. Gradually, a quiet realization settled among those studying the species. If growth unfolded at such a slow pace, the lifespan required to produce these immense bodies might extend far beyond expectations for most sharks. Even conservative estimates began to stretch the boundaries of familiar marine biology. Decades alone no longer seemed sufficient to explain what researchers were seeing. The idea did not arrive suddenly, but formed through accumulation, each observation adding a small weight to the scale of possibility. Notes in field journals began to carry cautious language about unusual longevity. Conversations among marine scientists turned toward the possibility that the Greenland shark followed a biological tempo unlike that of its relatives. Such suspicions remained tentative, held gently within the discipline of evidence. Yet the pattern persisted as more data gathered across years of quiet study. The sharks moved through their cold northern realm with the same measured patience that characterized their bodies, and the numbers drawn from those encounters suggested lives unfolding on a scale few vertebrates approached. Within laboratories and research vessels scattered across the North Atlantic, scientists continued to examine samples, measurements, and fragments of tissue. The puzzle remained incomplete, but the outline of something remarkable had begun to appear, like a faint shape emerging through dim water as observation slowly drew nearer. In a quiet laboratory far from the northern seas, a discovery began with something no larger than a small pearl of tissue. It rested within the cloudy eye of a shark that had once moved through distant waters, an unlikely place for a record of time. Yet hidden there was a structure that had formed at the very beginning of the animal's life, preserved with unusual stability across the passing years. The eye lens of vertebrates grows in a way that resembles a slowly forming sphere of transparent layers. New material settles gently around older layers, while the central nucleus remains sealed from change. In the Greenland shark, this nucleus forms before birth, when the embryo still drifts inside the body of its mother. From that moment onward, the tissue at the center remains isolated from the chemistry of the outside world, quietly holding the molecular signature of the time when it first appeared. Researchers realized that this unusual stability might provide a path where other methods had failed. If the earliest tissue in the lens preserved traces of ancient carbon, then the age of that carbon could reveal the approximate birth year of the shark itself. The idea required tools developed far beyond marine biology, techniques first refined to study the age of archaeological artifacts and long-buried organic remains. Radiocarbon dating measures the slow decay of carbon-14, an isotope formed naturally in the upper atmosphere. Living organisms absorb this isotope through food and water, carrying it within their tissues as long as life continues. Once a structure forms and stops exchanging material with the environment, the isotope begins a steady decline at a predictable rate. By measuring what remains, scientists can estimate how long that tissue has existed. Applying this approach to sharks required delicate work. Samples of the lens nucleus were carefully separated from surrounding layers, avoiding contamination that could distort the measurements. Each fragment was then analyzed with instruments capable of detecting extremely small differences in radioactive carbon. The process unfolded slowly, with repeated tests and cautious interpretation guiding every step. The results began to assemble a picture unlike anything previously known among large vertebrates. Smaller Greenland sharks carried carbon signatures indicating birth decades in the past, consistent with their modest size. Yet larger individuals revealed something far more unusual. The carbon contained within their eye lenses pointed to dates that reached back centuries. For one particularly large specimen, the measurements suggested a birth that may have occurred in the early 17th century. Even allowing for uncertainty in the calculation, the estimate stretched far beyond the lifespan expected for most sharks. Several other individuals also showed ages extending well past 200 years, forming a pattern that could not easily be dismissed as error. These findings did not appear suddenly as a single dramatic number. They emerged gradually from a series of measurements, each confirming that the Greenland shark followed a biological rhythm slower than almost any vertebrate yet studied. The immense bodies moving through northern waters carried within them tissues that had formed long before the present century began. The eye lens nucleus served as a quiet archive, its chemistry preserved through decades that lengthened into centuries. Unlike bones or muscle, which constantly renew themselves, this tiny core remained unchanged since the earliest moments of development. Within its molecular structure, the passage of time left a measurable trace, allowing scientists to read years that the shark itself had silently endured. As the study expanded to include more specimens, the pattern remained consistent. Age estimates for the largest animals approached or exceeded 400 years. Even the lower boundaries of those estimates suggested lifespans far longer than those of most marine predators. The numbers rested on careful calibration, yet their implications stretched into a scale rarely encountered in vertebrate biology. Through the patient study of a small and transparent structure, centuries of life revealed themselves. The Greenland shark carried its history not in visible marks upon the skin, but within the quiet center of its eye, where a fragment of tissue formed before birth continued to endure long after the oceans above had changed with time. Scientific measurements rarely deliver a single precise number when the subject spans centuries. Instead, they arrive as quiet ranges, intervals within which the truth most likely rests. The ages calculated from the preserved tissue inside these sharks carried such ranges as well, broad bands of possibility shaped by the limits of radiocarbon measurement and the natural variation within living systems. When researchers examined the data gathered from several large individuals, the central estimates already suggested lifespans far beyond those of most known sharks. Yet surrounding each estimate was a margin of uncertainty that extended both backward and forward through time. The mathematics did not declare an exact birthday. It revealed a window in which the shark had most likely entered the ocean. For the largest specimens, that window stretched across centuries. One animal measured at several meters in length produced an estimated age close to 400 years. The statistical boundaries surrounding that estimate allowed for somewhat younger ages, yet they also left room for something even more remarkable. Within the outer edge of probability, the lifespan could approach 500 years. Such numbers required careful handling. Scientists approached them with restraint, aware that extraordinary claims must rest upon equally careful evidence. The research did not declare that every Greenland shark lived for half a millennium. Instead, it showed that the biology of the species made such longevity possible within the limits of current data. This distinction mattered. Marine life often hides complexities that unfold slowly across generations. The measurements from eye lens tissue revealed the deep timescale at which these animals exist. Yet the precise maximum lifespan remains wrapped in the quiet uncertainties that accompany any study of creatures so rarely encountered. Even within those uncertainties, the implications reached far beyond earlier expectations. Vertebrate animals seldom endure for multiple centuries. A few marine species approach that scale, yet most predators live within far shorter arcs of time. The possibility that a shark might move through the ocean for 4 centuries, or perhaps even 5, expanded the boundaries of what scientists believed possible among large fishes. In comparison with other long-lived vertebrates, the Greenland shark stands in unusual company. Some whales inhabit the ocean for more than 200 years, their immense bodies drifting slowly through polar waters. Certain giant tortoises carry lifespans exceeding a century, their pace of existence unfolding across decades of steady growth. Yet the upper estimates suggested by these sharks extend beyond many of those already impressive lifetimes. The idea of a 500-year existence introduces a scale of time that crosses multiple chapters of human history. A shark born during the early modern period might continue swimming through waters that have witnessed the rise and transformation of entire civilizations. While generations of people come and go along distant coasts, the same animal may continue its gradual passage through northern seas. Such longevity does not imply a life of constant activity. The biology of the species appears built around patience and conservation, a rhythm in which growth and change occur slowly across vast stretches of time. Each year adds only subtle adjustments to the body, yet those small increments accumulate across centuries until a creature of great size and endurance emerges. Researchers continue to refine their measurements, comparing samples from different individuals and expanding the number of sharks studied. With each additional data point, the picture becomes clearer, though the full limits of the species remain uncertain. Somewhere within those quiet northern waters may swim individuals older than any yet measured. For now, the numbers stand as careful estimates rather than final conclusions. They suggest a lifespan that stretches beyond most expectations for vertebrate animals, perhaps reaching toward 5 centuries under the right conditions. Within that possibility lies a reminder that some forms of life unfold at a pace so slow that centuries pass as gently as seasons, leaving only the faintest traces within the living tissues that endure. Movement in the Greenland shark unfolds at a pace so gentle that time itself seems to soften around it. Observers who watch the animal through submersible windows or drifting cameras often notice how little disturbance follows its passage. The water parts quietly along the broad outline of the body, closing again without turbulence. There is no sudden surge or restless circling, only the steady rhythm of a creature whose life proceeds without urgency. Among sharks, this species belongs to the slowest travelers ever recorded. Measurements taken from tracking devices show that many individuals move at an average speed close to 0.3 meters per second. The distance covered during a single minute may seem modest compared with the swift bursts of tropical hunters. Yet the Greenland shark continues its motion hour after hour, maintaining a pace that demands little strain from its heavy muscles. Seen from a distance, the body appears almost suspended between strokes of the tail. Each movement sends a quiet wave along the length of the animal, beginning near the head and rolling gently toward the fins behind. The effect resembles the calm progress of drifting ice carried by a deep current. Strength remains present within the motion, though it is expressed through patience rather than speed. This unhurried style reflects the chemistry working inside the shark's cells. The waters inhabited by the species remain cold throughout the year, often hovering only slightly above the freezing point of seawater. In such conditions, biological processes slow naturally. Enzymes guide chemical reactions at a measured pace, and the tissues of the shark operate with remarkable efficiency while consuming relatively little energy. Metabolism, the quiet engine that fuels every living cell, therefore turns more slowly in this northern predator. Oxygen enters the bloodstream through the gills and circulates through muscles that contract without haste. Each beat of movement draws only modest reserves from the body. Instead of short bursts followed by fatigue, The shark sustains a calm continuity of motion that can persist across great stretches of time. Scientists sometimes describe this pattern as a strategy of conservation. Energy gathered from food must support a life that may extend across many decades or even centuries. By reducing the cost of movement, the shark preserves those resources carefully. The result is an existence shaped by efficiency rather than excess, where each action blends naturally with the slow rhythm of the surrounding ocean. The muscles themselves reflect this design. Compared with the powerful fibers that drive faster predators, the tissues of the Greenland shark favor endurance. They contract gradually, releasing their strength across longer intervals instead of sudden acceleration. Such structure suits an animal that rarely needs to chase prey across open water. Its life unfolds through steady progression, allowing the body to function with minimal waste. When biologists attach small tracking instruments to these sharks, the resulting records trace smooth paths across the seafloor and through deep channels. The lines appear almost tranquil when plotted on a map, curving gently through the ocean over days and weeks. The animal continues forward with the same calm persistence, whether the journey lasts an hour or a season. Speed, in this context, becomes less important than constancy. A body moving slowly yet continuously may travel great distances without ever appearing hurried. The Greenland shark embodies this principle with quiet authority. Its deliberate motion carries it through northern waters in a way that reflects both the chemistry of cold environments and the long timescale of its life. Within that slow passage lies a form of balance between physiology and place. The ocean surrounding the shark changes gradually across seasons and years, and the animal responds with a pace equally measured. Through calm strokes of the tail and the steady circulation of energy within its cells, the Greenland shark advances through its world with the patience of a life that unfolds in slow motion. In the quiet mathematics of predator and prey, speed usually holds a clear advantage. Seals move through water with fluid agility, their bodies built for swift turns and sudden bursts of acceleration. Muscles ripple beneath sleek skin as they travel between breathing holes and hunting grounds. Against such motion, the Greenland shark seems poorly equipped, advancing with a tempo that rarely quickens beyond its measured rhythm. Yet, examinations of stomach contents have revealed a surprising detail. Among fish and other marine life, researchers have repeatedly found remains of seals within the digestive systems of these slow-moving sharks. The evidence suggests that encounters between the two species do occur, though the exact circumstances remain largely unseen within the remote waters where both animals live. This puzzle has drawn the attention of marine biologists who study feeding behavior across northern ecosystems. A predator capable of reaching several meters in length carries the physical power to overpower large prey, but the act of capture demands more than strength alone. Speed often determines whether the distance between hunter and target closes or widens. In the case of the Greenland shark, the expected equation appears quietly rearranged. One possibility lies in the subtlety of movement rather than its pace. A body traveling slowly can disturb the surrounding water less than a rapid approach. Gentle strokes of the tail create only faint pressure waves, signals that nearby animals may struggle to detect. Within dim underwater conditions, where vision fades and currents shift quietly around drifting ice and rock, such calm movement may allow the shark to approach without immediate notice. Seals spend much of their lives alert to danger, yet their routines include periods of deep rest. In northern regions, many species drift into sleep while floating near the surface or resting beneath sheltering ice. During these intervals, breathing slows and awareness softens as the body conserves energy. A large predator arriving silently through the water could encounter prey that reacts too late to escape. Another explanation considers the possibility of ambush near places seals regularly visit. Breathing holes in sea ice, narrow openings that connect the frozen surface with the water below, attract animals that must return frequently for air. A predator lingering nearby could wait patiently along these routes, allowing opportunity to appear without warning when a seal descends from above. The Greenland shark possesses sensory abilities suited to detecting life even in darkness. Its sense of smell can guide it toward faint traces carried by currents, while subtle vibrations in the water reveal the movement of nearby animals. Through these signals, the shark may locate resting or distracted prey long before the encounter becomes visible. Captured seals discovered in stomach analyses often belong to species that inhabit icy coastal environments. Some individuals show signs of scavenging as well, suggesting that the shark also consumes animals that have already died or become weakened. In the quiet ecosystems of the far north, such opportunities can appear when illness, injury, or exhaustion leaves an animal unable to escape. Predation in this context may therefore unfold through patience rather than pursuit. The shark advances gradually through its surroundings, guided by scent and vibration. When the distance between predator and prey closes within a few body lengths, even a slow acceleration may prove sufficient for capture. The immense mass of the shark carries momentum once the movement begins, and a powerful bite can end the encounter quickly. These possibilities illustrate how ecological roles can differ from expectations shaped by faster predators elsewhere in the ocean. The Greenland shark does not rely on speed to dominate its environment. Instead, it occupies a niche where stillness, persistence, and opportunity combine to form a different style of hunting. Within the remote seas it inhabits, such strategies may unfold quietly and rarely, hidden from human observation. Yet the traces left within stomach contents confirm that the slow traveler occasionally secures swift prey, revealing a predator whose success emerges not from haste, but from patience, carried through the long unfolding of its life. Protection of long-lived species often begins with an understanding of how unusual their lives truly are. Animals whose lifespans extend across centuries exist within biological rhythms far slower than those familiar to most human observers. Their growth unfolds gradually. Their reproduction may occur only after many decades, and each individual carries a history that spans generations. For the Greenland shark, these characteristics create a quiet form of vulnerability. A population composed of animals that mature slowly depends heavily on the survival of adults already present within the ecosystem. Each mature individual represents the accumulated result of many years of development and survival in a challenging environment. When such animals disappear, the time required for replacement stretches across long intervals. A single generation may take more than a century to reach maturity, meaning that recovery from losses occurs slowly, even under favorable conditions. This biological pace makes the conservation of long-lived species especially important. Scientists studying the Greenland shark often emphasize the value of protecting habitats where these animals travel and feed. The deep channels and cold northern waters they inhabit form ecosystems that support a wide variety of marine life. Preserving the stability of these environments benefits not only the sharks, but also many other species that share the same waters. Marine conservation efforts, increasingly recognize the importance of maintaining balanced ocean systems. Fisheries regulations, protected areas, and international agreements represent tools designed to limit the impact of human activities on vulnerable species. In regions where Greenland sharks are known to occur, such measures may include monitoring accidental capture and encouraging practices that reduce bycatch. Research continues to play a central role in these efforts. By studying the movements and population patterns of the species, scientists gain a clearer understanding of where conservation actions may be most effective. Electronic tagging programs reveal migration routes and depth preferences, helping identify areas where sharks frequently travel. Data collected through these studies also assist in estimating population size and distribution. Because most Greenland sharks live in remote waters and rarely encounter humans, determining how many individuals exist within the ocean remains a complex task. Each new observation contributes valuable information that helps guide responsible management. Public awareness can also influence the protection of long-lived animals. When people learn that a shark swimming in northern seas may have begun its life centuries ago, the scale of that existence often encourages reflection on the importance of preserving such creatures. Their lives connect present-day observers with a natural history that extends far beyond modern memory. Conservation does not aim to remove human presence from the ocean entirely. Instead, it seeks to balance human needs with the long-term health of marine ecosystems. Sustainable fishing practices, careful management of shipping routes, and continued scientific research all contribute to this balance. For species like the Greenland shark, whose lives unfold at an extraordinary pace, such balance becomes especially meaningful. Protecting individuals that have already survived for decades or centuries helps ensure that their role within the ecosystem continues into the future. The ocean holds many ancient forms of life, each adapted to environments shaped by long natural cycles. Some of these species remain hidden from view for much of their existence, moving quietly through habitats rarely observed by people. Their continued survival depends upon the stability of the ecosystems they inhabit. Within the cold waters of the Arctic and North Atlantic, the Greenland shark represents one of these enduring presences. Its slow life history reflects an evolutionary strategy refined across long stretches of time. Protecting such animals helps preserve the biological heritage carried within their water. Near the northern margins of the Atlantic often holds a quiet chill that lingers only a breath above the freezing point of seawater. Beneath drifting ice and along deep continental slopes, temperatures frequently hover around 0 degrees Celsius. In such conditions, the ocean moves with a heavy stillness, its currents thick with cold that penetrates every living cell drifting through it. For many forms of life, these temperatures impose strict limits. Warm-blooded animals struggle to maintain internal heat, and creatures built for temperate seas rarely endure long within such frigid surroundings. Yet the Greenland shark exists comfortably inside this narrow band of cold, its body tuned over long evolutionary time to function within water that would challenge most other large predators. Temperature influences the chemistry of life in ways both subtle and profound. Every biological reaction within a cell depends on molecules colliding and rearranging in delicate sequences. When the surrounding environment grows colder, these reactions slow. Enzymes guide their transformations with greater patience, and the pace of cellular activity becomes measured rather than hurried. Within the tissues of the Greenland shark, this gradual rhythm shapes nearly every aspect of existence. The heart circulates blood through a body that moves with calm regularity. Muscles contract without urgency, powered by chemical processes unfolding at a restrained tempo. Digestion proceeds slowly as well, allowing nutrients extracted from food to support the animal across extended intervals between meals. This slower metabolism carries an important consequence. When cellular reactions occur at a reduced pace, the wear that gradually accumulates within living tissue can unfold more gently. Molecules involved in energy production release fewer damaging byproducts, and the structures that maintain the integrity of cells endure longer before requiring repair. Over time, such effects may contribute to the extended lifespans observed in several animals inhabiting cold environments. Among vertebrates, the pattern appears repeatedly. Species that live within polar or deep ocean waters often grow slowly and reach maturity later than relatives in warmer regions. Their lives stretch across longer spans, guided by the quiet arithmetic of chemistry unfolding within chilled tissues. The Greenland shark represents one of the most striking expressions of this principle. The ocean surrounding these sharks provides not only cold, but also remarkable stability. Temperatures in deep northern waters fluctuate far less than those near the surface of temperate seas. Storms and seasonal changes influence the upper layers of the ocean, yet deeper regions remain buffered from rapid shifts. Within this stable environment, the shark experiences conditions that change gradually across years and decades. Such consistency allows biological systems to settle into enduring equilibrium. Proteins that shape cellular function maintain their structure within the narrow temperature range surrounding them. Metabolic pathways operate steadily without sudden acceleration or disruption. The shark's body becomes attuned to this quiet constancy, matching its internal processes to the patient rhythm of the surrounding water. Growth unfolds slowly within such an environment. Each year adds only modest increments to the animal's length and mass, yet the accumulation of those small changes continues across many decades. The body expands gradually, while its cells remain protected by the restrained pace of chemical activity maintained in the cold. Over long spans of time, the combination of slow metabolism and stable conditions may allow life to extend far beyond the expectations formed in warmer seas. Energy is used carefully. Tissues endure with less strain, and biological clocks tick with measured patience. The Greenland shark, therefore, inhabits a world where temperature itself becomes an architect of longevity. Within these near-freezing waters, life proceeds quietly. The shark moves through a realm shaped by cold that governs chemistry, growth, and time itself. Every cell operates within this chilled equilibrium, sustaining a creature whose years accumulate slowly, carried forward by the calm persistence of life, unfolding in water just above ice. Across the immense body of a Greenland shark, every layer reflects an ancient negotiation with cold. The skin alone tells part of this story. It forms a dense outer covering that feels coarse to the touch, built from countless tiny denticles that overlap like minute armor. Beneath this textured surface lies a thickness rarely seen in many other sharks, a protective barrier that shields the internal organs from the persistent chill of the northern ocean. Just below the skin rests a broad layer of fatty tissue. This reservoir of lipids serves several purposes at once. Fat holds energy that can sustain the shark during long intervals when food becomes scarce. At the same time, it provides insulation, slowing the exchange of heat between the shark's body and the surrounding water. In an environment where temperatures hover near freezing, such insulation helps maintain a stable internal state within tissues that must continue their quiet work. The mass of the body contributes to this stability as well. Larger animals lose heat more slowly than smaller ones, because the ratio between surface area and internal volume favors retention. The Greenland shark, with its immense form, carries a natural advantage in this regard. Its broad frame holds warmth more effectively than a slender body could, allowing vital organs to operate within conditions that remain relatively steady despite the cold that surrounds them. Yet physical structure alone cannot fully explain how life persists in water so near the freezing point. The chemistry of the shark's cells reveals another set of adaptations woven deeply into its biology. Proteins, the molecular machines responsible for nearly every function within a cell, normally require a delicate balance of temperature and chemical stability. In cold environments, these molecules risk losing their proper shape, which can disrupt the reactions necessary for life. To counter this challenge, the Greenland shark carries unusual concentrations of specific compounds dissolved within its tissues. Among them are substances such as trimethylamine oxide, often shortened to TMAO, along with high levels of urea. Together, these molecules influence the stability of proteins, helping them maintain their structure even when surrounding temperatures remain extremely low. Inside the cells, these compounds act quietly but effectively. They surround delicate protein structures, balancing the chemical forces that might otherwise cause the molecules to unfold or lose their functional shape. Through this subtle stabilization, enzymes and other cellular components continue to operate despite the cold that slows the movement of molecules within the cell. This chemical environment also influences the density of the shark's body fluids. Urea, in particular, alters the balance of dissolved substances within tissues, contributing to the osmotic equilibrium that allows cells to retain their water content. In the surrounding ocean, where salt concentrations differ from those inside the body, such equilibrium remains essential for maintaining the integrity of every cell. The presence of these compounds carries additional consequences. Flesh rich in urea and TMAO becomes unsuitable for immediate consumption by many animals, including humans. Fresh meat from the shark contains chemical concentrations that can prove toxic if eaten without preparation. In the natural world, however, this internal chemistry forms part of the delicate adjustments that permit survival within cold northern seas. Over countless generations, these structural and chemical traits have merged into a single biological design. Thick skin shields the body from the external chill, while layers of fat store energy and moderate temperature changes. Within the tissues, dissolved compounds stabilize the fragile machinery of life, ensuring that proteins continue their quiet labor even as the surrounding ocean remains close to ice. Through this combination of physical and chemical adaptations, the Greenland shark becomes a creature finely tuned to its environment. The cold waters of the Arctic do not merely surround the animal, they shape its skin, its tissues, and the invisible chemistry within every cell, forming a body built carefully for a world where life unfolds beside the edge of freezing. Long before scientists began examining the chemistry of Greenland sharks in laboratories, northern fishing communities already understood that something unusual lay within the flesh of this animal. When the large sharks were hauled from cold waters and cut open along wooden docks, their meat carried an odor and taste that warned against immediate consumption. Experience passed quietly through generations taught that eating the flesh fresh could bring sickness rather than nourishment. The reason for this caution lies within the internal chemistry that helps the shark endure its frigid environment. Among the dissolved compounds circulating through the tissues are high concentrations of urea and trimethylamine oxide, often abbreviated as TMAO. These substances play important roles inside the body of the shark, yet they also shape the properties of its flesh in ways that affect other animals. Urea forms as a natural product of metabolism in many living creatures. In most vertebrates, it travels through the bloodstream before leaving the body through specialized organs that regulate waste. Sharks follow a different path. They retain unusually large amounts of urea within their tissues and body fluids, using it to balance the concentration of salts between their internal chemistry and the surrounding ocean. By holding this compound inside the body, the shark maintains osmotic equilibrium, a quiet balance that allows cells to keep their proper volume and function within seawater. The tissues therefore contain far more urea than those of most fish. For animals adapted to such concentrations, this chemical environment presents no difficulty. Yet for humans, the same compound can become problematic when consumed in large amounts. Trimethylamine oxide accompanies urea in this biochemical arrangement. The molecule serves as a stabilizing partner for proteins, helping them retain their proper structure in the cold conditions where the shark lives. Together, these compounds allow delicate cellular machinery to continue operating despite the low temperatures that surround the animal. Once the shark dies, however, the chemistry of its flesh begins to change. Microorganisms and natural enzymes slowly break down trimethylamine oxide into another compound known as trimethylamine. This transformation releases a strong ammonia-like odor, and it also contributes to the toxic qualities associated with fresh Greenland shark meat. Ingesting the flesh at this stage can produce symptoms resembling severe intoxication. Historical accounts from northern sailors describe dizziness, nausea, and confusion after eating the untreated meat. The chemical mixture interferes with normal nerve function and digestion, producing an unpleasant experience that early communities quickly learned to avoid. Over time, practical knowledge developed around methods capable of transforming the meat into something safer. One such method took root in Iceland, where fishermen occasionally encountered these enormous sharks in coastal waters. Rather than discard the meat entirely, they developed a careful process that slowly altered its chemistry. The flesh was buried beneath gravel or sand, allowing fluids rich in urea to drain away under the pressure of stones placed above. Weeks passed while the meat rested underground. During this period, microorganisms and natural reactions continued to break down remaining compounds, gradually reducing the toxic elements that once dominated the tissue. After sufficient time, the meat was unearthed and hung in open air to dry, where wind and cold completed the transformation. The final product became known as hakarl, a traditional food with a strong flavor and aroma shaped by the chemical journey it has undergone. Though unfamiliar to many visitors, the preparation reflects generations of observation and adaptation among people living along northern coasts. Within the shark itself, the same compounds that require careful handling outside the body serve essential roles in survival. Urea balances internal fluids, while trimethylamine oxide protects the structure of proteins. These molecules allow the animal to exist within the cold chemistry of its environment, even though they render its flesh unsuitable for immediate consumption by humans. Through this interplay of biology and tradition, the Greenland shark reveals another dimension of its remarkable adaptation to northern waters. The chemistry that sustains life inside its cells carries consequences beyond the animal itself, shaping the ways people have learned to interact with a creature whose body remains finely tuned to the quiet demands of the Arctic Ocean. Across the windswept coasts of Iceland, where dark volcanic rock meets the restless edge of the North Atlantic, a particular tradition has endured for centuries. In small coastal settlements, fishermen once brought ashore immense sharks whose bodies carried the same unusual chemistry that had puzzled many outsiders. From this encounter between people and predator emerged a preparation unlike almost any other food in the world. The finished product is known as hockerel, a fermented form of Greenland shark that has become closely linked with Icelandic heritage. Its pale cubes appear modest in size, yet the preparation behind them unfolds slowly, guided by methods passed through generations. Each stage reflects an understanding shaped not by laboratory measurements, but by careful observation of how the meat changes over time. Long ago, the inhabitants of Iceland faced an environment where reliable sources of food could not always be guaranteed. The island's landscape offered little in the way of agriculture during much of its early history. Harsh weather, volcanic terrain, and long winters meant that communities relied heavily on what the surrounding ocean provided. Fish, seabirds, and marine mammals formed essential parts of daily survival. When Greenland sharks appeared in local waters or became entangled in fishing gear, their massive bodies presented both opportunity and challenge. The meat could not be eaten fresh, as its chemistry caused illness. Yet discarding such a large source of potential nourishment would have been difficult for communities living close to the limits of subsistence. Instead, fishermen experimented with ways to transform the flesh into something safe to consume. The method that emerged relied on patience and the quiet assistance of natural processes. Sections of shark meat were first placed beneath layers of gravel or sand, often in shallow pits near the shore. Heavy stones pressed down upon the buried flesh, encouraging fluids to drain away while microbial activity slowly reshaped the tissue. Weeks passed during this stage, allowing chemical changes to unfold beneath the ground. After sufficient time, the meat was uncovered and hung in wooden sheds open to the cold air. There it remained suspended from beams, exposed to the wind that swept across the island. Drying continued for several months, gradually concentrating the flesh and allowing the remaining compounds to break down further. By the end of this process, the sharp toxicity of the original meat had largely disappeared. What remained carried a distinctive aroma and flavor, shaped by fermentation and time. Small portions were cut into bite-sized pieces and served in modest quantities. To many unfamiliar with the tradition, the scent can seem strong, yet for Icelanders, the food carries echoes of history and resilience. Each piece reflects an older relationship between people and the demanding environment they inhabit. Hackerel eventually became associated with winter gatherings and seasonal celebrations. It often appears during midwinter festivals when communities share traditional dishes that recall earlier generations. Within these moments, the fermented shark represents more than sustenance. It serves as a reminder of how ingenuity allowed life to continue on an island where survival once depended on careful use of every available resource. The Greenland shark, therefore, occupies a unique place in Icelandic culture. While the animal itself moves silently through distant waters, its presence reaches ashore through this enduring culinary practice. The transformation of its flesh into hockerel reflects an intricate meeting of biology, climate, and human adaptation. Through centuries of experience, fishermen and families learn to work with the natural properties of the shark rather than against them. Fermentation and drying reshaped the chemistry that once made the meat harmful, turning it instead into a symbol of endurance in the far north. In quiet coastal villages, the tradition continues today, linking modern Iceland to a past shaped by ocean winds and careful resourcefulness. The Greenland shark remains part of that story, not only as a mysterious creature of deep waters, but also as an unexpected ingredient in the cultural memory of a northern island. Within the dim expanses of the Northern Ocean, food rarely appears in sudden abundance. Life there follows quieter rhythms, scattered across wide distances where animals encounter one another only occasionally. In such an environment, the Greenland shark survives not through specialization alone, but through a broad and patient approach to feeding. Studies of stomach contents, gathered from scientific examinations, reveal a surprisingly varied diet. Among the most common items are fish species that inhabit cold northern waters. Cod, halibut, and other deep-dwelling fishes often appear within the remains found inside captured sharks. These prey animals move through the same broad habitats, creating moments when paths cross in the darkness below. The shark's immense mouth and rows of teeth allow it to consume prey of considerable size when opportunity arises. Some teeth are narrow and pointed, suited to gripping slippery animals that struggle against capture. Others form broader, cutting edges that help slice flesh into pieces small enough to swallow. This combination equips the predator to handle many different forms of marine life. Squid also appear regularly among the remains discovered within the stomach. These cephalopods drift and swim through deep water, their bodies propelled by pulses of jet-like motion. When encountered by the Greenland shark, they become another potential source of nourishment. The soft tissues of squid digest readily, leaving behind fragments that scientists later identify during careful examination. Occasionally, the evidence points to even larger prey. Portions of marine mammals have been recorded within the digestive systems of some sharks. Seals appear among these remains, suggesting encounters between predator and mammal somewhere within the vast northern waters they share. The precise circumstances of such events remain largely unseen, yet the fragments discovered by researchers confirm that the shark sometimes consumes animals far larger than most fishes. Feeding in these environments does not always depend upon active hunting. The ocean itself carries a steady supply of organic material drifting downward from life above. Among the most dramatic examples of this process are whale falls, events that occur when the immense body of a whale sinks after death. As the carcass settles upon the sea floor, it becomes the center of an entire temporary ecosystem. Large scavengers arrive first, drawn by scent carried through the water. Among them may appear the Greenland shark, whose sense of smell can guide it across great distances toward the source of decaying flesh. Once present, the shark tears portions from the whale's body, sharing the bounty with other scavengers that gather around the carcass. Such events provide enormous quantities of food that can sustain many animals for extended periods. The tissues of a single whale contain energy accumulated across decades of life in the ocean. When that energy returns to the deep sea, creatures adapted to patience and endurance may feed upon it gradually over weeks or months. This ability to scavenge adds flexibility to the feeding habits of the Greenland shark. Rather than depending entirely on capturing living prey, the animal takes advantage of opportunities whenever they appear. Fish encountered during slow travel, drifting squid, injured mammals, or the remains of enormous whales all become potential meals within a landscape where food may arrive unpredictably. The digestive system of the shark reflects this opportunistic pattern. Food can remain within the stomach for long intervals, while enzymes break down flesh at a measured pace. Nutrients released during this process provide energy that supports the shark through long periods before the next encounter with prey. Within the quiet northern ocean, such adaptability becomes essential. A predator that can accept many different forms of nourishment gains resilience against the uncertainty of its environment. The Greenland shark moves steadily through this world, guided by scent and subtle signals in the water, ready to feed upon whatever life or death the sea happens to deliver. Above the Arctic Ocean, the sky often glows with pale horizons and drifting clouds, yet far below that distant light, the water settles into a realm of deep quiet. The Greenland shark moves through this vast interior space where distance stretches in every direction and sound fades into the slow pulse of the sea itself. The Arctic basin contains enormous volumes of water that sink into darkness long before reaching the sea floor. Sunlight penetrates only the upper layers, thinning gradually as depth increases. Below a certain boundary, the illumination weakens until shapes dissolve into shadow. In these depths, animals rely less on sight and more on the subtle signals carried through the water around them. The Greenland shark belongs naturally to this dim environment. Its body drifts through a world where outlines appear softly and movement reveals itself through faint changes in pressure or scent rather than clear images. The quiet waters hold few sudden disturbances, allowing the animal to navigate slowly through space that remains calm and largely undisturbed. Seasonal sea ice adds another dimension to this northern ocean. During colder months, the surface begins to freeze, forming broad sheets that extend across large regions of water. These floating layers thicken through winter, creating a pale roof above the darker ocean beneath. From above, the ice appears solid and still, yet below it, the sea continues its slow circulation. The presence of ice alters the character of the water below. Light reaching the ocean must first pass through layers of frozen crystals and snow resting upon the surface. Each layer scatters and softens the sunlight before it reaches the depths. As a result, the world beneath the ice becomes even dimmer, its illumination filtered into faint bluish tones that fade quickly with depth. Within this subdued light, the Greenland shark moves with steady patience. The environment offers few visual landmarks, only gradual shifts in water density and the distant contours of seafloor slopes. Animals that inhabit this space often travel widely, guided by sensory cues that drift invisibly through the water. During the brief Arctic summer, the ice begins to loosen and break apart. Open channels appear between drifting flows, allowing more sunlight to reach the ocean surface. Phytoplankton bloom in the upper layers, supporting bursts of biological activity that ripple upward through the food web. Even then, however, deeper regions remain largely shielded from direct light. As autumn returns, the ice reforms, restoring the quiet roof above the sea. The cycle repeats each year, shaping the rhythm of life throughout the Arctic basin. For creatures adapted to these conditions, such seasonal transitions form part of the broader pattern that guides feeding, movement, and survival. In deeper channels and along continental slopes, the darkness becomes nearly complete. Here the Greenland shark travels through water that may never experience direct sunlight. Its progress continues unhurried, guided by senses attuned to chemical traces and delicate vibrations moving through the ocean. Sound behaves differently in water than in air, carrying across long distances through subtle pressure waves. Yet even these faint signals travel slowly in the stillness of the Arctic depths. The result is an environment where movement often passes unnoticed, except by those animals sensitive enough to perceive the quiet disturbances. Within this silent expanse, the Greenland shark becomes part of the background rhythm of the sea. Its immense body moves through layers of cold water beneath drifting ice and distant stars. Light fades quickly here, leaving only soft gradients of shadow where life unfolds at a pace measured not in moments, but in years. The Arctic Ocean remains one of the least observed environments on Earth, vast and remote. Beneath its seasonal ice and within its dim interior, creatures like the Greenland shark continue their slow passage through a world shaped by darkness, distance, and the quiet persistence of cold northern waters. Numbers from oceanographic instruments reveal an unexpected dimension of the Greenland shark's life. Electronic tags attached by researchers have followed individuals through the water column, tracing slow arcs that descend and rise across remarkable distances. These records show that the species does not remain fixed at one depth. Instead, it moves through a vertical world that stretches from the dim layers near the surface to depths exceeding 2,000 meters. At the upper edge of this range, the ocean still carries traces of daylight filtering through the water. In summer months, when the Arctic sky lingers with extended twilight, faint illumination penetrates the upper layers. The shark sometimes enters these shallower zones, gliding beneath drifting ice or through open water where currents mix nutrients and drifting organisms. Such visits to higher layers rarely last long. Tracking data often show the animal gradually descending again, slipping downward into darker water where pressure grows steadily stronger. The journey unfolds without urgency, a long glide downward through layers of shifting temperature and density. Deeper regions of the ocean introduce an entirely different environment. The water grows colder and more stable, insulated from surface weather by the immense mass above. Light disappears completely, leaving only darkness shaped by occasional bioluminescent flashes from distant creatures. Within this quiet interior, the Greenland shark continues its slow movement, passing along seafloor slopes and deep basins. The pressure at these depths becomes immense. Every meter of descent adds additional weight from the water above, compressing the environment around any living body. Yet marine animals, adapted to deep water, carry tissues designed to withstand such forces. Flexible cellular structures and specialized chemistry allow their organs to function even as pressure rises far beyond conditions experienced at the surface. The Greenland shark demonstrates remarkable tolerance for this vertical range. Instruments attached to individuals have recorded movements that span more than 2 kilometers between the highest and lowest depths. Few large predators travel across such a broad vertical corridor within the ocean. These journeys are often described as vertical migrations. Rather than moving only across horizontal distance, the shark also shifts gradually between layers of water stacked above one another. Each layer carries its own temperature, pressure, and concentration of life, creating a three-dimensional landscape through which the animal travels. Several influences may guide these movements. Some marine organisms rise toward the surface during nighttime hours and sink again as daylight returns. This daily pattern, known as diel vertical migration, forms one of the largest movements of biomass on Earth. A predator moving between depths may encounter prey that follow these rhythms. Changes in water temperature can also shape vertical travel. Different layers of the ocean maintain distinct thermal characteristics, and moving between them allows animals to experience subtle shifts in their surrounding environment. For a species adapted to cold conditions, these gradients may influence comfort, metabolism, or the availability of food. The Greenland shark's patient swimming style suits such exploration. Rather than darting quickly between depths, it glides gradually along the vertical axis of the sea. Hours may pass as it drifts downward through successive layers, its body adjusting naturally to the increasing pressure and darkness. At times, the shark may return toward shallower water once more, retracing its path through the column of the ocean. These movements do not follow rigid patterns that scientists fully understand. Each individual appears to wander through the depths, according to subtle cues that remain partly hidden from observation. Through these migrations, the shark occupies a vast vertical domain that extends from near-surface waters to the deep ocean below. Its world, therefore, includes multiple layers of the Arctic Sea, each with its own quiet conditions and drifting life. Within this vertical landscape, The Greenland shark continues its slow passage, moving calmly through depths that range from faintly lit waters to immense darkness far below. The ocean around it becomes not a flat expanse, but a towering column of cold water through which the animal travels with steady patience. Growth in the Greenland shark unfolds at a pace so gradual that decades pass before the changes become visible. Marine biologists studying the species have measured individuals across many sizes, comparing their lengths and estimating the rate at which the body expands over time. The results reveal a rhythm of development unlike that seen in most large predators. In many sharks, growth during early life proceeds relatively quickly. Juveniles lengthen steadily through the years, approaching adulthood within a few decades. The Greenland shark follows a far slower trajectory. Each year adds only a small increase in size, sometimes measured in mere millimeters. The body enlarges so gradually that the passage of time becomes difficult to perceive without long records. This restrained pace begins early in the shark's life. A young individual enters the ocean already prepared for the demanding conditions of its environment, yet its physical development stretches across many decades. Instead of racing toward maturity, the animal drifts through long periods of quiet growth while the surrounding sea continues its own cycles. Researchers have attempted to estimate this process by combining measurements of body size with the age data revealed through radiocarbon analysis. When the two sets of information are considered together, they outline a life history that moves with remarkable patience. Small increases in length accumulate slowly until the animal eventually reaches the immense proportions observed in older individuals. The implications of this slow expansion extend beyond simple size. Reproductive maturity, the stage at which an animal becomes capable of producing offspring, appears to arrive very late in the life of the Greenland shark. Current estimates suggest that females may not reach this stage until somewhere between 100 and 150 years of age. Such timing places the species among the most slowly maturing vertebrates known. Many animals begin reproducing within a small fraction of their total lifespan, ensuring that new generations appear regularly. The Greenland shark follows a different pattern. A single individual may spend more than a century growing and developing before contributing to the continuation of its species. This prolonged youth shapes the structure of the shark's entire life. For decades, the animal travels through the ocean as a large but still immature predator, feeding and moving without participating in reproduction. During this extended interval, its body continues to expand gradually, adding muscle and mass through the steady accumulation of energy gathered from food. Several biological factors likely contribute to this unusual tempo. The cold environment in which the species lives slows many internal processes, including the chemical reactions that guide growth. Cells divide, and tissues develop at a measured rate, producing bodies that change slowly across long periods. The extended lifespan of the species also plays a role. When life unfolds across centuries, development can afford to proceed without haste. Growth that might seem slow in a short-lived animal becomes more balanced when spread across an existence that may span several human lifetimes. This strategy carries both advantages and risks. A creature that matures slowly may invest more resources in each stage of development, building a body capable of enduring long years in the ocean. At the same time, the long delay before reproduction means that populations recover slowly if individuals are lost. Within the quiet depths of the northern seas, however, the Greenland shark continues this patient progression. Decade by decade, Its body grows larger, guided by biological rhythms that move far more slowly than those of most marine predators. The result is a life history that stretches the boundaries of time. A young shark may wander the ocean for a century before reaching full maturity, carrying its gradual transformation through an environment shaped by cold and distance. Growth in this species becomes a slow unfolding across generations of human history, each year adding only the faintest increment to a body that will one day become immense. Across the natural world, lifespan rarely emerges as an isolated trait. It grows from the quiet interaction between an organism and the environment surrounding it. Temperature, energy availability, and the pace of biological processes all shape how long a creature can endure. In the case of the Greenland shark, these elements combine in a setting where time itself seems to move with unusual patience. Cold water influences life at the most fundamental level of chemistry. Every cell operates through countless reactions in which molecules meet, separate, and rearrange into new forms. These reactions drive the creation of energy, the repair of tissues, and the renewal of biological structures. When temperature falls, the motion of molecules slows, and these reactions unfold at a gentler pace. In such conditions, metabolism, the network of chemical processes sustaining life, also proceeds more slowly. Energy production continues steadily, yet without the intensity found in warmer environments. The Greenland shark carries a metabolism that reflects this restrained rhythm. Its cells convert nutrients into usable energy gradually, supporting the body without demanding rapid turnover of cellular machinery. A slower metabolic rate influences the accumulation of damage inside living tissues. During normal energy production, cells release small quantities of reactive molecules capable of harming proteins, DNA, and membranes. These molecules appear naturally as part of respiration, yet their effects accumulate through time. Organisms with faster metabolisms often produce these byproducts more rapidly, increasing the burden placed upon cellular repair systems. In colder environments, the reduced pace of metabolism means that fewer of these damaging molecules are generated each moment. Cellular structures therefore experience less chemical stress across the years. Repair mechanisms still operate, correcting errors and replacing worn components, but they face a more manageable workload. Over long intervals, this balance can contribute to extended survival. Another factor emerges from the stability of the surrounding environment. In many ecosystems, temperatures shift widely between seasons, or even between day and night. Organisms living there must continually adjust their physiology to changing conditions, a process that can place strain upon internal systems. Deep and polar waters, by contrast, often maintain remarkably consistent temperatures throughout the year. For animals inhabiting these stable waters, the internal machinery of life can operate without constant recalibration. Enzymes and cellular structures remain adapted to a narrow thermal range, reducing the stress associated with environmental fluctuation. This steadiness allows biological processes to proceed smoothly across decades, supporting the gradual unfolding of long lifespans. Energy expenditure also plays an important role. Creatures that rely on rapid movement or frequent bursts of activity must maintain powerful muscles and swift metabolic turnover. Such intensity can accelerate the wear placed upon tissues over time. The Greenland shark follows a different pattern. Its calm motion and deliberate behavior align with an energy economy that favors endurance over speed. Within this framework, growth, maintenance, and survival extend across unusually long intervals. Cells divide less frequently, Metabolic reactions proceed steadily rather than urgently, and the surrounding environment offers consistent conditions that place minimal stress on biological systems. Together, these elements create circumstances where aging itself unfolds slowly. Evolution does not shape longevity directly as a goal. Instead, it favors traits that enhance survival and reproduction within a given environment. In cold and stable habitats, organisms capable of operating efficiently at low metabolic rates may naturally experience longer lives. Over generations, such characteristics accumulate, producing species whose biology stretches across centuries. The Greenland shark stands as one of the most remarkable expressions of this principle. Its body reflects an intricate partnership between physiology and environment, where cold waters slow the pace of cellular chemistry and reduce the damage that time gradually imposes. Through this quiet interaction between temperature, metabolism, and stability, long life becomes possible. The shark's centuries unfold not through dramatic resistance to aging, but through a calm alignment with conditions that allow life itself to proceed at a measured and enduring pace. Longevity in the ocean is not limited to a single species drifting through northern waters. Across the depths of the sea, several remarkable organisms share the quiet ability to endure for centuries. Their lives unfold slowly beneath waves that rise and fall above them, each creature following its own patient rhythm, shaped by cold environments and stable habitats. One of the most well-known among these long-lived animals is the bowhead whale. This immense marine mammal inhabits polar seas, where drifting ice and seasonal darkness define the landscape. Bowheads move through these waters with calm strength, their massive bodies guided by thick layers of insulating fat that protect them from the cold. Scientific study has revealed that some bowhead whales can live for more than 200 years. Evidence for these ages has appeared in surprising forms. In a few cases, researchers discovered fragments of ancient harpoon tips embedded within the flesh of living whales, relics from hunts that occurred generations ago. Such findings suggested that the animals carrying them had already been swimming through the ocean long before modern scientific observation began. Inside the bodies of bowheads, slow cellular processes and protective biological mechanisms appear to contribute to their extended lifespans. Their cells possess unusual resistance to damage that accumulates with time, allowing tissues to remain functional across centuries of growth and movement through polar waters. While whales represent some of the largest long-lived creatures in the sea, other examples exist among far smaller forms of life. The ocean quahog, a type of clam living along the seafloor of the North Atlantic, holds one of the most extraordinary records for longevity among animals. These clams spend their lives partially buried within sediment, filtering microscopic particles from the surrounding water. Their shells grow gradually over time, adding thin layers that record the passing years much like rings in a tree. By counting these layers, scientists can estimate the age of individual clams with remarkable precision. One famous specimen, discovered near Iceland, revealed an age exceeding 500 years. The clam had begun its life centuries before many modern nations existed in their current form. Throughout that time, it remained quietly anchored within the seafloor, its slow metabolism and stable environment allowing life to continue far beyond ordinary expectations. Another group of long-lived ocean organisms exists among deep-sea corals. Unlike the brightly colored reefs found in shallow tropical waters, these corals grow slowly in dark environments far below the reach of sunlight. Their branching skeletons form delicate structures that expand gradually over centuries. Each coral colony consists of many small polyps working together as a single organism. Calcium carbonate, secreted by these polyps, builds intricate frameworks that can persist for extraordinary lengths of time. Some deep-sea coral colonies have been estimated to live for several hundred years, their growth rings preserving a record of ocean conditions across generations. In such environments, the surrounding water remains stable and undisturbed. Temperature changes occur slowly, and disturbances from storms rarely reach these depths. The corals continue their quiet expansion year after year, creating habitats that shelter other marine life within the branches of their ancient skeletons. Though whales, clams, and corals differ greatly in form, they share certain underlying traits. Many inhabit cold or stable environments where metabolic processes unfold gradually. Energy is used sparingly, and biological systems operate with patience rather than urgency. Within these conditions, longevity becomes possible through the steady balance between growth, maintenance, and survival. Each organism follows a different path toward that balance, yet all demonstrate how life in the ocean can stretch far beyond the timescales familiar to most creatures. The Greenland shark, therefore, exists within a small community of marine life whose years accumulate quietly across centuries. From immense whales gliding beneath polar ice to clams resting unseen within sediment and corals expanding in darkness, the ocean holds many examples of lives shaped by time, moving at an unhurried pace. Time, measured in centuries, reshapes the way a single life can be imagined. When researchers estimated the ages of the largest Greenland sharks, the numbers quietly stretched backward across long chapters of human history. A living animal swimming through the Arctic today may have begun its life during an era when the modern scientific world was only beginning to take shape. If such a shark had been born 400 years ago, the year might have fallen somewhere in the early 1700s or even earlier. At that moment, many of the scientific ideas now taken for granted were still emerging. Telescopes had only recently begun revealing the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn. Natural philosophers were gradually turning observation and experiment into the disciplined practice that would become modern science. Across Europe and beyond, scholars were assembling new ways to understand the natural world. The laws of motion described by Isaac Newton were reshaping how people thought about gravity and movement. Instruments designed to measure pressure, temperature, and light were appearing in laboratories and workshops. The foundations of scientific method were being laid through careful observation and mathematical reasoning. During those same years, somewhere within the cold northern ocean, a small Greenland shark may have been beginning its slow life. The animal would have entered the water long before the formal study of marine biology existed as a scientific discipline. It would have grown gradually, while the language used to describe the living world was still forming. As decades passed, human knowledge expanded in ways that transformed the understanding of nature. Explorers sailed across oceans, mapping coastlines and charting currents. Naturalists began cataloging plants and animals with increasing precision, building the first comprehensive systems of classification. The work of Carl Linnaeus introduced a structured method for naming species, allowing scientists to describe the diversity of life with greater clarity. Meanwhile, the same shark may have continued its quiet existence in distant waters. Year by year, its body would have grown slightly larger, its life unfolding far from the scholars and instruments reshaping human knowledge. The centuries that passed for people above the surface would have felt to the shark like a long and gradual unfolding of time. Historical events that reshaped societies across the world might have occurred while the same animal still moved slowly through the ocean. Empires expanded and declined. New technologies appeared that altered how humans traveled, communicated, and understood their place in the universe. Through all of this, the shark's life would have continued without awareness of the changes unfolding above the waves. The comparison highlights how different the timescales of human history and certain natural processes can be. A lifespan measured in centuries allows an individual organism to exist across multiple generations of people. For the Greenland shark, the passage of time stretches across intervals that encompass revolutions in science, industry, and exploration. Even the scientific tools used to discover the shark's age, developed long after the animal itself may have begun living. Radiocarbon dating, the method that allowed researchers to estimate the age of eye lens tissue, was created only in the 20th century. The technology capable of revealing centuries of life appeared long after those centuries had already begun for the shark. This contrast offers a quiet reminder of the depth of time present within the natural world. Human curiosity and knowledge continue to evolve rapidly, yet some living creatures follow biological rhythms that extend far beyond the span of human experience. The Greenland shark, therefore, becomes more than a remarkable species of fish. It represents a life capable of bridging eras, carrying its existence across centuries, while human understanding of the ocean gradually expands. Somewhere within the northern seas today, an individual shark may still be swimming whose life began when early scientists were first learning to measure the laws that govern the universe. The animal continues its slow passage through the water, its years accumulating quietly, while the story of human discovery moves forward above the surface. Centuries pass quietly beneath the ocean's surface, yet the water itself never remains completely unchanged. Currents shift, temperatures rise and fall, and patterns of ice slowly advance or retreat across the polar seas. During the lifetime of a Greenland shark, these gradual transformations may unfold again and again, each cycle leaving subtle traces in the environment through which the animal moves. Long before modern instruments measured the climate of the Arctic, natural variations shaped the region across decades and centuries. Periods of colder conditions allowed sea ice to expand farther across the northern oceans, covering broad areas with thick frozen layers. In other intervals, the ice retreated, opening wider passages of dark water between drifting flows. These shifts influence the character of the entire marine system. Ice controls how much sunlight reaches the ocean below, and light governs the growth of microscopic algae that form the foundation of Arctic food webs. When ice becomes thinner or breaks apart earlier in the year, more sunlight penetrates the surface layers. Phytoplankton multiply in these brighter waters, supporting larger populations of zooplankton, fish, and marine mammals. During colder periods, the opposite pattern may unfold. Extended ice cover limits the arrival of sunlight and shortens the growing season for microscopic life. The productivity of the ecosystem changes accordingly, altering the abundance and distribution of species that depend upon these early stages of the food chain. The Greenland shark moves through these evolving conditions without awareness of the long climatic patterns shaping its surroundings. Its life stretches across intervals in which entire ecosystems gradually rearrange themselves. Fish populations may shift their ranges, marine mammals may alter migration routes, and the timing of seasonal cycles may change across decades. Ocean currents also play a role in this slow transformation. Large circulations carry water between different regions of the planet, transporting heat, nutrients, and dissolved gases along vast pathways. Over time, these currents may strengthen, weaken, or change direction slightly, altering the distribution of life across the seas. Within the Arctic and North Atlantic, Currents deliver relatively warmer water from southern latitudes, while colder flows descend from polar regions. The balance between these currents influences the extent of sea ice and the temperature of deeper layers. Through centuries, the pattern adjusts gradually, guided by atmospheric conditions and the complex motion of the global ocean. Marine ecosystems respond continuously to these shifting circumstances. Species expand into new areas or withdraw from regions where conditions become less favorable. Communities of organisms reorganize as predators, prey, and competitors interact within the changing environment. Some animals thrive under new conditions, while others decline or migrate elsewhere. For a creature capable of living hundreds of years, these ecological transitions may occur several times within a single lifespan. A Greenland shark, born during one climatic phase, may experience entirely different conditions centuries later. The availability of prey, the structure of food webs, and the extent of ice may all evolve during the years of its quiet journey. Yet, many features of the Arctic Ocean remain stable enough to support the slow life history of the species. Deep waters maintain relatively consistent temperatures, and the vast scale of the environment allows animals to adjust their movements as conditions change gradually. Through this balance of stability and transformation, the ocean continues to reshape itself across long spans of time. The Greenland shark glides through these centuries of change, its life unfolding within a dynamic system that never truly stands still. While human history advances rapidly on land, the ocean follows rhythms measured in longer intervals. Ice forms and melts, currents circulate across entire basins, and ecosystems adapt to shifting climates. Within these enduring cycles, a single shark may travel slowly through waters that have changed many times since the day it first began to swim. Long before charts of the Arctic were carefully drawn, the northern seas already held their quiet inhabitants. Vast stretches of water lay beyond the knowledge of early navigators, hidden behind drifting ice and unpredictable weather. Yet curiosity and necessity gradually carried human vessels into these regions, where the ocean had followed its own rhythms for ages. During the early centuries of maritime exploration, wooden ships ventured farther into northern waters in search of new trade routes and resources. Sailors hoped to discover passages connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, pathways that might shorten journeys between continents. The pursuit of these routes brought expeditions into seas few Europeans had ever seen. These voyages were difficult undertakings. Ships built from timber and guided by canvas sails depended entirely on wind and skillful navigation. Instruments for determining precise location were still developing, and storms or drifting ice could easily push a vessel far from its intended course. Crews traveled cautiously, studying currents, coastlines, and the slow movement of sea ice. As explorers pressed northward, they entered waters where human presence had been rare. The Arctic Ocean stretched wide and cold around them, its surface broken by floes of ice that shifted with the tides. Beneath those waters lived creatures adapted to conditions far removed from the temperate seas familiar to most sailors. Among those creatures, the Greenland shark had already occupied its quiet domain for centuries. Long before the first European ships approached these latitudes, generations of sharks had moved slowly through deep channels and continental slopes. Their lives unfolded unnoticed, while human maps of the world remained incomplete. Explorers recorded many details about the unfamiliar regions they encountered. Journals described the shape of coastlines, the abundance of seabirds, and the appearance of seals resting upon drifting ice. Occasionally large sharks were mentioned as well, hauled aboard fishing vessels or glimpsed near the surface beside ships. For sailors accustomed to faster predators in warmer seas, the Greenland shark appeared unusual. Its movements seemed deliberate, and its immense body carried the calm weight of a creature shaped by colder waters. When individuals were caught accidentally in fishing gear, the size and texture of their flesh often surprised those who encountered them. Indigenous communities of the Arctic had known these animals long before foreign explorers arrived. For generations, people living along northern coasts had observed the creatures that shared their environment. Knowledge of local wildlife formed part of daily survival, passed through stories and experience from one generation to the next. As European exploration expanded, interactions between sailors and Arctic ecosystems became more frequent. Whaling ships traveled northward in search of valuable resources, and trading vessels began navigating routes along rugged coastlines. Each journey added new observations to the growing body of knowledge about the northern seas. Throughout these changes, the Greenland shark continued its slow passage through the water. The arrival of ships above did little to alter the steady rhythm of its life. While explorers measured new lands and named distant capes, the shark followed ancient patterns of movement within depths rarely seen from the deck of a vessel. Centuries later, historians would read the journals left behind by those early expeditions. Their pages captured the first encounters between humans and the vast Arctic environment, revealing a world both challenging and mysterious to those who entered it. Within that same environment, the Greenland shark remained an enduring presence. The animal had lived in those waters long before maps labeled the surrounding seas, and it would continue living there long after early voyages had ended. Human exploration gradually illuminated the geography of the Arctic, yet the ocean itself retained many of its secrets. Beneath the surface, creatures whose lives stretched across generations continued their quiet existence, moving through cold waters that had already witnessed centuries of change. Modern knowledge of the Greenland shark has emerged gradually from careful observation carried out in some of the most remote waters on Earth. Researchers seeking to understand these animals must travel far from shore, navigating seas where cold winds, drifting ice, and deep channels shape the environment. Scientific study unfolds slowly here, guided by patience and the quiet persistence required to observe creatures that spend most of their lives beyond human sight. Research vessels form the center of many of these efforts. These ships carry teams of marine biologists, oceanographers, and technicians equipped with instruments designed to explore the depths. Laboratories aboard the vessels allow scientists to examine samples immediately after they are collected, preserving fragile details that might otherwise disappear during a long return to shore. When a research expedition reaches the areas where Greenland sharks are known to travel, the work often begins with carefully deployed fishing lines or specialized traps. These tools are not used to harvest the animals, but to bring individuals close enough for study. Once a shark is secured beside the vessel, scientists work quickly yet calmly to minimize stress on the animal. Measurements of length and weight provide important information about the size of each individual. Small tissue samples may also be collected for genetic analysis or age estimation. These samples are preserved carefully, later becoming part of long-term studies that help reveal the biology of the species. One of the most valuable techniques used today involves electronic tagging. Small devices attached to the shark's body record information about movement, depth, and temperature as the animal travels through the ocean. Some tags transmit data to satellites when they detach and reach the surface, while others store their recordings until researchers recover them later. Through these tags, scientists gain insight into patterns that were once almost impossible to observe. The devices reveal how far sharks travel, how deeply they dive, and how their movements change across seasons. Each record contributes another piece to a slowly expanding portrait of the species' life beneath the waves. Deep water cameras add another layer to this exploration. Mounted on sturdy frames and lowered into the ocean, these cameras capture images of the dark environment where the sharks move. Bait may be placed nearby to attract passing animals, allowing the camera to record their appearance and behavior. The footage collected from these cameras often shows the Greenland shark emerging quietly from the surrounding darkness. Its broad shape drifts into view, moving slowly past the lens before fading again into shadow. These brief glimpses provide valuable confirmation of how the animal behaves when undisturbed by human presence. Oceanographic instruments carried by research vessels also help scientists understand the wider environment surrounding the sharks. Sensors lowered through the water measure temperature, salinity, and oxygen levels across different depths. Such information reveals how physical conditions influence the distribution of marine life throughout the region. Together, these tools create a network of observations that stretches across time and space. A tagged shark traveling through deep water records its own journey, while cameras and sensors describe the environment through which it moves. Each expedition adds new data to long-term research programs that span many years. Despite these advances, studying the Greenland shark remains a demanding task. The animal's slow movements and remote habitat mean that encounters with researchers are still relatively rare. Many aspects of its behavior continue to unfold far beyond the reach of human observation, yet each new study gradually expands understanding of this remarkable species. Through the steady work of research vessels, electronic tags, and deep water cameras, scientists continue to gather glimpses of a life that unfolds quietly within the Northern Ocean. These efforts reflect a partnership between technology and patience. In waters where darkness and distance once concealed nearly everything, modern science now provides careful windows into the world of a shark whose centuries-long life continues beneath the surface. Moments when humans and Greenland sharks meet directly are uncommon and often brief. The animal spends much of its life in waters that remain difficult for people to reach, where depth, cold, and distance separate it from ordinary observation. Yet on rare occasions, divers or research submersibles encounter the slow-moving predator, and those moments provide glimpses into a life that usually unfolds far from human presence. Divers working in northern seas sometimes describe unexpected appearances during deep descents. Visibility in these waters often fades into soft shades of blue and gray, leaving only a narrow field of view around the observer. Within that quiet space, the broad outline of a shark may emerge gradually from the surrounding darkness. The animal does not approach with sudden speed. Instead, it drifts forward with calm movements of the tail, its large body suspended in the water column. For divers accustomed to faster species of sharks, the pace can feel almost surreal. The Greenland shark seems less like a hunter passing through than a quiet current given form. Encounters of this kind usually remain peaceful. The shark shows little sign of agitation or curiosity toward human visitors. It may pass slowly nearby, turning slightly as it continues along its path. Within moments, the body fades again into the dim water, leaving the diver alone once more in the silent environment. Submersibles used in scientific exploration have also recorded meetings with these animals. Encased within strong hulls designed to withstand deep pressure, researchers descend into dark layers of the ocean while cameras capture the surrounding scene. The lights mounted on the vehicle illuminate only a small circle within the immense darkness. Occasionally, a Greenland shark glides into that halo of light. The creature's pale gray body becomes visible against the dark background, its slow motion revealing the texture of skin and the gentle movement of its fins. For scientists watching through thick observation windows, the moment offers a rare opportunity to witness the animal within its natural setting. These encounters help confirm aspects of the shark's behavior that are difficult to study by other means. Observers often note the steady pace of its swimming and the calm manner in which it moves through the water. The animal rarely displays sudden reactions to the presence of lights or machinery, continuing its journey with the same measured rhythm. Fishermen occasionally report sightings as well. While tending lines or hauling nets from deep water, they may glimpse the shadowy shape of a large shark moving beneath the vessel. In some cases, individuals become entangled accidentally in fishing gear, bringing them briefly into direct contact with people. Even in these situations, the Greenland shark seldom exhibits rapid or aggressive behavior. Its movements remain slow and deliberate as crews work carefully to free the animal or bring it alongside the boat for observation. Such moments offer another rare window into a species that usually remains hidden from view. For most of its life, the shark travels through regions where human presence is minimal. Vast stretches of ocean separate the animal from ships and divers, and the darkness of deep water conceals its passage. The few encounters that occur, therefore, carry a quiet significance for those who witness them. Divers returning from these meetings often describe a sense of witnessing something ancient and unhurried. The shark appears almost detached from the hurried pace of human activity, moving with the patience shaped by centuries of life in cold waters. Then the moment passes. The animal continues its slow journey through the dim sea, leaving behind only a fading silhouette in the distance. Human observers ascend toward the surface with memories and recorded images, while the Greenland shark resumes its quiet movement through an ocean that rarely reveals its inhabitants. Far beneath the surface of the Northern Ocean, most Greenland sharks live entire lives without ever encountering a human observer. The vastness of their habitat places them within regions rarely visited by divers, ships, or scientific instruments. In these quiet depths, the animals move through cold water year after year, their presence known only through scattered traces that occasionally reach the surface. The ocean covering the Arctic and North Atlantic extends across enormous distances. Beneath its surface lie layers of water that remain dim or completely dark, forming an environment where human activity is limited. Even modern technology can explore only small portions of this immense space at any given time. As a result, the majority of creatures living there pass their lives unseen. For the Greenland shark, this hidden existence has likely remained unchanged for centuries. Individual animals may travel slowly along deep slopes or across wide basins where few vessels ever pass above. Their movements follow patterns shaped by currents, temperature, and the search for food. Yet these journeys leave little visible evidence behind. Scientists studying the species often rely on indirect clues to understand where the sharks travel and how they behave. Occasional captures in fishing gear reveal their presence within certain regions. Electronic tags provide brief records of movement before the devices detach and drift back to the surface. Each fragment of information offers insight, yet the full story remains largely concealed. Between these rare observations, the sharks continue their quiet routines beyond the reach of human eyes. They descend through layers of dark water, navigate across seafloor landscapes, and encounter other animals within ecosystems that few people have ever witnessed directly. The scale of the ocean makes this hidden life possible. A single research expedition may spend weeks exploring a small portion of northern waters, yet the surrounding sea stretches far beyond the boundaries of that investigation. Depth adds another dimension to this distance, creating vertical spaces that extend thousands of meters below the surface. Within these depths, the Greenland shark becomes one inhabitant among many others that remain largely unknown. Fish, squid, invertebrates, and microorganisms share the environment, each contributing to an intricate web of life unfolding quietly beneath the waves. Most of these interactions occur far from any human presence. For an animal capable of living several centuries, the absence of observation means that an entire lifespan may pass without direct contact with people. A shark born hundreds of years ago might travel through its environment continuously, while human civilizations rise, change, and develop new technologies above the surface. Even the scientific discovery of the shark's remarkable longevity came only recently. For most of recorded history, the species moved through northern waters without revealing the extraordinary length of its life. Only through careful research in modern times did scientists begin to recognize how long these animals may endure. The contrast between human awareness and the reality of life in the ocean remains striking. While technology has expanded the ability to explore deep environments, the majority of the marine world still lies beyond frequent observation. Many creatures live and die within these hidden spaces without ever appearing in scientific records. The Greenland shark embodies this quiet obscurity. Its slow movements and remote habitat allow it to pass through the centuries with little interruption. Most individuals drift through their entire existence beyond the gaze of humans, leaving only faint signs of their presence in the rare moments when chance brings them closer to the surface. Within the cold northern seas, countless lives unfold in this same quiet manner. The ocean remains a place where much of life continues independently of human attention. For the Greenland shark, this hidden existence forms the natural rhythm of a life that moves slowly through waters vast enough to keep its secrets for generations. Far below the shifting surface of the ocean lies a realm where change arrives slowly. In these deep waters, conditions remain remarkably stable compared with the restless environments above. Temperature varies little across seasons, sunlight never penetrates, and currents move with measured patience along the contours of the seafloor. Within such surroundings, the deep ocean sometimes resembles a vast time capsule, preserving forms of life that have endured across long stretches of history. Many creatures inhabiting these depths belong to lineages that have changed only gradually over millions of years. Fossils discovered in ancient sediments often reveal organisms strikingly similar to those still living in modern deep seas. The environment surrounding them has remained consistent enough to allow evolutionary patterns to proceed without rapid transformation. This stability shapes the biology of many deep-dwelling species. Growth tends to be slow, reproduction may occur infrequently, and life cycles stretch across extended periods. With fewer environmental disruptions, organisms adapt to conditions that remain predictable across generations. The Greenland shark exists within this broader pattern of longevity and endurance. Its habitat overlaps with deep regions of the Arctic and North Atlantic, where temperature and pressure remain constant through time. In these environments, the slow rhythm of life reflects the stability of the surrounding water. Animals adapted to such settings often show traits suited for patience rather than speed. Their bodies conserve energy efficiently, and their behaviors emphasize endurance over rapid movement. The absence of sudden environmental shifts reduces the need for constant adaptation, allowing species to persist with little change. The deep ocean floor itself preserves traces of history, much like layers of sediment in ancient rock. Organic material drifting down from above accumulates gradually, forming deposits that record biological activity across centuries. Within these quiet layers, Remnants of shells, skeletons, and microscopic organisms provide scientists with clues about past ecosystems. Certain deep-sea organisms contribute to this record directly. Corals growing slowly in darkness build skeletal frameworks that expand over hundreds of years. Each layer captures chemical signals from the surrounding water, preserving information about temperature and ocean chemistry across time. Sponges and other long-lived animals also inhabit these depths, their bodies continuing to grow slowly as years pass. Some individuals have been estimated to survive for centuries, becoming living archives of environmental conditions within their tissues. The concept of the deep ocean as a time capsule emerges from this combination of stability and longevity. Species endure across extended intervals, while the environment around them changes only gradually. Life here reflects processes that unfold over decades, centuries, or even longer spans. For a creature like the Greenland shark, such conditions offer a setting well suited to its extraordinary lifespan. The animal moves through waters where sudden disturbances rarely occur, guided by currents and chemical signals that remain consistent through time. Its slow metabolism aligns naturally with an environment where energy arrives in measured amounts. Within these depths, the passing years accumulate quietly. Organisms grow, feed, and reproduce according to rhythms shaped by stable surroundings rather than rapid environmental change. Evolution still continues, yet it proceeds gradually, influenced by pressures that remain constant over long periods. Human exploration has only begun to uncover the complexity of this hidden world. Submersibles and deep ocean cameras reveal landscapes populated by species whose histories stretch back through geological time. Each discovery adds another piece to the understanding of how life persists within the ocean's most enduring environments. In this sense, the deep sea becomes a living archive. Creatures like the Greenland shark inhabit waters that preserve ancient biological strategies, allowing forms of life to continue across centuries with little interruption. The ocean's depths therefore hold more than darkness and distance. They contain a quiet continuity where the present often echoes patterns established long before human history began. Every life strategy carries its own balance of advantages and limitations. The Greenland shark embodies a pattern shaped by patience, longevity, and slow development, traits that allow the species to endure within cold northern seas. Yet this same pace introduces challenges that become visible when the species encounters pressures beyond those it evolved to face. One of the most significant consequences of slow living lies in reproduction. Animals that mature gradually often produce offspring less frequently than species with shorter life cycles. For the Greenland shark, maturity itself arrives after many decades, sometimes more than a century after birth. Only then does the animal begin contributing to the next generation. This long delay means that population growth unfolds slowly. Each generation requires many years to replace the individuals that came before it. In stable environments where mortality remains low, such a strategy can persist successfully. When adults survive for centuries and natural threats remain limited, populations may remain balanced even with relatively infrequent reproduction. The ocean environments inhabited by Greenland sharks historically offered such stability. Their remote habitats and deep-ranging movements reduced encounters with many potential dangers. Predation on large individuals appears to be rare, and natural mortality may occur only gradually across extended lifespans. Human activity, however, introduces a different form of pressure. Modern fishing operations extend across vast portions of the world's oceans, reaching depths and regions that were once rarely disturbed. Long lines, trawl nets, and other fishing gear sometimes intersect with the pathways traveled by Greenland sharks. In many cases, the sharks are not the intended target of these fisheries. Instead, they become bycatch, animals accidentally caught while fishermen pursue other species. Once entangled in gear designed for large fish, the sharks may be hauled to the surface alongside the intended catch. For species with rapid reproduction, occasional losses from such encounters may be replaced quickly by new individuals reaching maturity. The Greenland shark does not possess that capacity. When an animal that has lived for many decades disappears, the population may require generations to recover the loss. Historical records suggest that these sharks were once caught intentionally in certain regions as well. Their large livers contain oils that were valuable for industrial and lighting purposes in earlier centuries. Fisheries developed to harvest these oils removed significant numbers of sharks from northern waters before such practices declined. Although direct targeting has diminished in many areas, accidental capture still occurs. Because the sharks inhabit deep water and move slowly, they may remain within fishing gear longer than more agile species. This increases the likelihood that individuals will be brought aboard vessels or suffer injury while attempting to escape. The vulnerability created by slow reproduction has drawn attention from marine conservation scientists. When a species matures late and produces relatively few offspring, its populations depend heavily on the survival of adult individuals. Each adult carries the potential to contribute to future generations across many years. Protecting such species, therefore, requires careful management of human activities within their habitats. Fisheries regulations, monitoring programs, and improved fishing techniques can help reduce accidental capture. Through these measures, scientists and policymakers attempt to balance human use of ocean resources with the long-term survival of species whose lives unfold slowly. The Greenland shark's biology reflects a strategy that evolved successfully within stable and sparsely disturbed environments. Its long life and gradual development allow it to endure across centuries in the quiet depths of the Northern Ocean. Yet this same strategy reveals its cost when external pressures increase. A creature built for patience must rely on time itself to sustain its population. When that time is interrupted, recovery becomes slow and uncertain, reminding observers that the pace of nature does not always match the speed of human activity. The ocean that surrounds the Greenland shark continues to change as human activity reaches farther into even the most remote regions of the planet. For centuries, the species moved through waters where disturbances remained relatively limited. In recent decades, however, several emerging pressures have begun to alter the conditions within which these long-lived animals exist. One of the most immediate challenges arises from accidental capture in fishing operations. Modern fisheries extend across vast areas of the North Atlantic and Arctic seas, targeting species that share overlapping habitats with the Greenland shark. Longlines set for deep-dwelling fish and large nets drawn along the seafloor sometimes intercept animals that were never intended to be caught. This form of capture is known as bycatch. It occurs when fishing gear collects species other than the target of the fishery. For many marine animals, bycatch represents a significant source of mortality, particularly when the equipment is designed to hold large or powerful creatures. Greenland sharks, with their slow movements and broad ranges, occasionally encounter these fishing systems while traveling through deep water. Once caught on a line or within a net, the shark may be brought toward the surface along with the intended catch. In some cases, individuals are released when discovered, yet the process can still cause stress or injury. Because the species develops and reproduces slowly, even moderate levels of accidental capture can influence population stability over time. The removal of a mature individual represents the loss of many decades of survival and growth. Replacing that loss may require generations of slow development among younger sharks. Another pressure emerges from gradual changes in the climate of the Arctic and North Atlantic. Rising global temperatures influence the physical conditions of the ocean, including the extent and thickness of seasonal sea ice. In many regions, the ice now forms later in the year and retreats earlier during warmer months. These changes alter the structure of the ecosystems that exist within polar waters. As ice coverage shifts, the timing and intensity of biological productivity also change. The growth of microscopic algae near the surface responds to variations in sunlight and nutrient circulation, which in turn influences the distribution of fish and marine mammals throughout the region. For a predator that relies on a diverse range of prey, such shifts may gradually reshape the availability of food. Species that once occupied certain areas may move to new regions as water temperatures change. Other organisms may become more abundant in response to altered environmental conditions. Ocean warming can also influence deeper layers, where Greenland sharks often travel. Even small changes in temperature may affect the chemistry of seawater and the circulation of currents that distribute oxygen and nutrients. These shifts unfold slowly, but have the potential to alter marine ecosystems across long timescales. At the same time, expanding human activity in northern waters introduces additional disturbances. Increased shipping, exploration for natural resources, and the spread of commercial fisheries bring more vessels into regions that were previously visited only rarely. Noise, pollution, and physical disruption may accompany these developments. The Greenland shark continues its quiet movement through these evolving conditions, guided by instincts shaped over many generations. Its life history reflects a biological rhythm that developed within environments of relative stability. As new pressures emerge, scientists seek to understand how such a slow-living species will respond. Research programs now monitor populations and record encounters with fishing gear in order to estimate the scale of bycatch. Climate studies track the changing patterns of ice, temperature, and marine life throughout the Arctic basin. Each piece of information contributes to a broader effort to understand how the modern ocean is transforming. Within these changing seas, the Greenland shark remains a symbol of endurance across centuries. Yet the pressures now appearing within its habitat remind observers that even ancient species depend upon the continued balance of the environments they inhabit. Protection of long-lived species often begins with an understanding of how unusual their lives truly are. Animals whose lifespans extend across centuries exist within biological rhythms far slower than those familiar to most human observers. Their growth unfolds gradually. Their reproduction may occur only after many decades, and each individual carries a history that spans generations. For the Greenland shark, these characteristics create a quiet form of vulnerability. A population composed of animals that mature slowly depends heavily on the survival of adults already present within the ecosystem. Each mature individual represents the accumulated result of many years of development and survival in a challenging environment. When such animals disappear, the time required for replacement stretches across long intervals. A single generation may take more than a century to reach maturity, meaning that recovery from losses occurs slowly, even under favorable conditions. This biological pace makes the conservation of long-lived species especially important. Scientists studying the Greenland shark often emphasize the value of protecting habitats where these animals travel and feed. The deep channels and cold northern waters they inhabit form ecosystems that support a wide variety of marine life. Preserving the stability of these environments benefits not only the sharks, but also many other species that share the same waters. Marine conservation efforts increasingly recognize the importance of maintaining balanced ocean systems. Fisheries regulations, protected areas, and international agreements represent tools designed to limit the impact of human activities on vulnerable species. In regions where Greenland sharks are known to occur, such measures may include monitoring accidental capture and encouraging practices that reduce bycatch. Research continues to play a central role in these efforts. By studying the movements and population patterns of the species, scientists gain a clearer understanding of where conservation actions may be most effective. Electronic tagging programs reveal migration routes and depth preferences, helping identify areas where sharks frequently travel. Data collected through these studies also assist in estimating population size and distribution. Because most Greenland sharks live in remote waters and rarely encounter humans, determining how many individuals exist within the ocean remains a complex task. Each new observation contributes valuable information that helps guide responsible management. Public awareness can also influence the protection of long-lived animals. When people learn that a shark swimming in northern seas may have begun its life centuries ago, the scale of that existence often encourages reflection on the importance of preserving such creatures. Their lives connect present-day observers with a natural history that extends far beyond modern memory. Conservation does not aim to remove human presence from the ocean entirely. Instead, it seeks to balance human needs with the long-term health of marine ecosystems. Sustainable fishing practices, careful management of shipping routes, and continued scientific research all contribute to this balance. For species like the Greenland shark, whose lives unfold at an extraordinary pace, such balance becomes especially meaningful. Protecting individuals that have already survived for decades or centuries helps ensure that their role within the ecosystem continues into the future. The ocean holds many ancient forms of life, each adapted to environments shaped by long natural cycles. Some of these species remain hidden from view for much of their existence, moving quietly through habitats rarely observed by people. Their continued survival depends upon the stability of the ecosystems they inhabit. Within the cold waters of the Arctic and North Atlantic, the Greenland shark represents one of these enduring presences. Its slow life history reflects an evolutionary strategy refined across long stretches of time. Protecting such animals helps preserve the biological heritage carried within their existence. Through thoughtful conservation efforts, the possibility remains that these ancient sharks will continue their quiet journeys beneath the waves. Their centuries-long lives may unfold within oceans that still provide the conditions necessary for patience, endurance, and the gradual passage of time. Some of the longest-lived creatures in the ocean still carry quiet secrets that science has not yet uncovered. Even after years of observation, the Greenland shark remains a species whose life unfolds largely beyond the reach of direct human study. Researchers continue to piece together fragments of knowledge, building a picture that grows clearer while still leaving wide spaces of uncertainty. Among the most intriguing mysteries is the location where these sharks reproduce. No scientist has ever directly observed a Greenland shark giving birth. The early stages of their lives remain hidden somewhere within the vast northern seas. Juveniles are rarely encountered, suggesting that the youngest animals may inhabit areas that remain difficult to reach or observe. It is possible that these early life stages occur in remote basins, deep fjords, or other secluded regions of the Arctic and North Atlantic. Such environments could provide protection during the earliest years of development. Yet without direct evidence, these ideas remain careful possibilities rather than confirmed answers. The timing of reproduction is another puzzle shaped by the extraordinary pace of the species. Previous sections have hinted at the slow growth that characterizes these sharks. If individuals require more than a century to reach maturity, the rhythm of their reproduction may also extend across long intervals. A single female could produce offspring only occasionally across a lifespan that spans many human generations. Understanding this cycle remains difficult because encounters with mature animals rarely reveal the internal details necessary to determine reproductive patterns. Researchers studying captured specimens sometimes find clues within anatomy or hormone levels, yet such glimpses provide only partial information about the complete life cycle. The question of maximum lifespan also continues to invite careful investigation. Earlier discoveries revealed ages that extend far beyond those of most vertebrate animals. Radiocarbon measurements from eye tissue suggested lifespans reaching several centuries, an astonishing result that reshaped scientific expectations. Even with these findings, uncertainty remains. The techniques used to estimate age include ranges of possibility rather than exact numbers. Individual sharks may live somewhat shorter or somewhat longer lives than current estimates suggest. The upper limit of their lifespan therefore remains an open horizon rather than a fixed boundary. Population size presents another challenge. Greenland sharks inhabit enormous stretches of cold ocean where direct observation is rare. Their slow movements and deep-ranging habits make them difficult to count using traditional survey methods. A shark may travel across great distances without ever appearing near a research vessel or camera. To address this challenge, scientists combine several approaches. Satellite tags record movements through the water column, while deep-sea cameras capture occasional images that confirm presence in certain regions. Genetic studies also provide insight, revealing relationships among individuals and suggesting how populations may be connected across distant waters. Despite these efforts, the total number of Greenland sharks in the ocean remains uncertain. Some areas may contain more individuals than expected, while others may host only scattered animals moving slowly through the darkness. Each new observation helps refine estimates, yet the full picture remains incomplete. These unanswered questions do not diminish the progress already made. Instead, they illustrate the scale of the environment these sharks inhabit. The Arctic and North Atlantic encompass immense spaces shaped by shifting ice, deep currents, and long seasonal cycles of light and darkness. Within that vast setting, the Greenland shark continues its quiet existence, following patterns that have developed over centuries. Scientists observe patiently, gathering fragments of information whenever opportunities arise. Over time, additional discoveries will gradually fill the remaining gaps in understanding. Until then, the species stands as a reminder that even in an age of advanced research, the ocean still holds lives whose full stories remain only partly known. Far beneath the shifting surface of the northern seas, time moves with a different rhythm. Currents travel slowly through dark water, Ice drifts above in quiet seasonal cycles, and living creatures follow patterns that unfold across spans difficult to measure against the brief scale of human life. Within this patient world, the Greenland shark continues its long passage through the ocean. The life of a single individual may extend across centuries. While generations of people appear and fade along distant coastlines, the same shark may continue moving through familiar waters, guided by instincts shaped long before modern science began to study the sea. Its existence is not hurried. Each year adds only a small measure to its growth, and the long arc of its life stretches quietly through the passage of time. Imagining such a life invites a different sense of history. A shark that began swimming several centuries ago would have entered the ocean when the human understanding of the natural world was still unfolding. Early scientific thinkers were only beginning to describe the structure of the heavens, the motion of planets, and the hidden workings of the body. During those same years, the Northern Ocean already held creatures whose lives would continue far beyond those first discoveries. While ships crossed the Atlantic under canvas sails, these sharks traveled through deep channels and cold currents that had existed for thousands of years before any human vessel entered those waters. The centuries that followed brought enormous changes to the human world. New ideas spread through books and universities, technology advanced, and societies expanded across continents. Yet beneath the quiet cover of the Arctic seas, the lives of Greenland sharks continued according to older rhythms. Each movement through the water reflects a pace shaped by cold temperatures and the slow chemistry of life in deep ocean environments. Growth occurs gradually, metabolism remains steady and deliberate, and the passage of years becomes part of the natural structure of existence. Some individuals alive today may have already lived through more seasons than any human ever could. Their bodies carry the record of decades spent in waters that remain dim and silent for much of the year. The slow journey of such animals forms a living connection between distant moments in time. Although many details of their lives remain hidden, their presence reminds us that the ocean contains histories that extend far beyond the limits of written records. Beneath layers of water and ice, creatures continue lives that began long before the earliest scientific observations of the sea. Even now, somewhere within the immense northern ocean, a Greenland shark may be moving quietly along the edge of a deep slope or across a cold basin floor. Its life may have begun centuries ago, in a time when the world above the surface looked very different from the one known today. The animal does not carry awareness of these changes. It simply follows the steady patterns that guide its existence through the cold water. Currents shift, seasons turn, and light fades and returns across the Arctic year while the shark continues its slow journey. For scientists and observers, the knowledge that such lives exist adds a sense of depth to our understanding of the ocean. The sea is not only a place of vast distance, but also a place where time itself stretches across unusual scales. Within those depths, long-lived animals quietly persist, moving through environments shaped by forces that operate across centuries. Their presence suggests that the ocean still holds stories far older than our own, unfolding patiently beneath the waves as the Greenland shark continues swimming through time.